Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you are listening. This is We Are The One, Lincolnshire FA's official grassroots football podcast, where we speak to the amazing people who make football happen in our community. This week we're speaking to Stephen Altoft, the club secretary at Bottesford Town. We talk about how he got involved in the game, the impact that Bottesford Town make within its local community, and how the game has evolved in Steve's time. Enjoy. So I'm here with Stephen Altoft from Bottesford Town. Steve, do you want to just tell us about your roles at the club?
Yeah, I've been involved now for like 30 odd years, so I've probably encompassed all the roles within the club at some point. I'm currently the welfare officer, and I'm also the club secretary. So it's quite a challenging role. There's a lot of with 31 football teams involved. It's quite a big task, really. Like herding cats at times.
Yeah.
But it does demand quite a lot of my time, and luckily I'm in a position where I can give it that time. So it's quite an undertaking, really. But I do enjoy it, else I wouldn't do it. I'm not in it for financial gain. Yeah. If I was, I would be a rich man. But it's purely a labour of love. So,
yeah, absolutely. And you find it rewarding as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, over the years, at times you question why you're doing it. I'll be honest, not every day's rosy. It's difficult at times, and you send quite a lot of challenges, whether it's through disciplinary things or whether it's through welfare issues and things like that. With the size of the club that it is, you're bound to get problems that come day in, day out, not even week in, week out. It's on a daily basis. And you're constantly having to deal with things, either whether it's welfare, whether it's secretarial, or whether it's just having to talk to people, keep the standards up, things like that within the club. That's what I focus on more than anything.
Yeah. So just tell us about the club. Obviously, it's got a long history. You've obviously mentioned that you've been involved for 30 years as well. So what makes the club so special to you?
I think it's the progression. The fact that I'm lucky in one respect that I've been able to see it when we had 6 teams, and we used to meet up in a little port cabin at the side of the pitch, or even in the kitchen in the social club. And there was everybody crammed in there, and we forget where we come from. We look at the brilliant facility we've got now, and the amount of teams that are involved, and the actual camaraderie of it all. And I think the newer teams don't see where we've actually come from, the journey we've been on over the last 20 or 30 years. Like I say, we started with. When I was there when I first started with my son, just as a parent going along, because I wanted my boy to play football, keep fit, and we had like 6 teams, and I joined one of the younger teams, and just got bit by the bug, really, I think. But in a 20-year period, say 20 because it was static for a little bit, 20 years. We've just grown from strength to strength, both with teams, facilities, people involved, the professionalism, and it's quite a story, really, when you look at it. If you could time log it and do a time lapse video of it all, it'd be very interesting, I'm sure.
Well, looking at where the club is now, obviously you've got how many junior teams have you got now?
With 24.
24 junior teams. You've obviously got pan disability teams.
Yes.
Men's pathway.
Yeah.
Female team and pathway.
Yeah, we're developing that pathway. It's gradually, now we've got the ladies at the top of the pyramid sort of thing. There's now a progression that the junior teams, the 12s, the 13s, hopefully 14s, 16s, this sort of thing, have got somewhere to go. We've got something to aspire to, something. We don't want them dropping off the end of the conveyor belt at the end, having all that lovely time at the club, and then thinking, that's it now, I'm packing in. Yeah, those days are hopefully gone. Same with the men's, and I mean, obviously the disability is quite open-aged anyway, so there's always a place for anybody with any disability at our club, because it's this is what we're trying to introduce. We started off as DS Active, which was just Down syndrome, which absolutely wonderful, brilliant setup that is, but we've developed that into a pan disability. So when people were coming, was having to turn them away before. Sorry, because you're not the right disability and all that sort of. Now we encompass them because it's something we want for everybody to be. Oh, there's a place for everybody, and to play football and keep fit. It's not all about being the best. It's just it's something they want to do.
It's the things that go beyond almost results, and what is stereotypically or traditionally seen as what football is all about. Actually, football is more than just the results on the pitch, isn't it? It's the impact that it has on people's lives as well.
Massive, yeah. I mean, I know some people, it's the only thing they do twice a week. They go to training, and they play football on a weekend. And parents have come to me, whether it's disability teams or kids with sort of mental health issues, because they have them at 8 and 10-year-old. This don't stop doing what you're doing, because it's the only time he goes out. It's the only time he gets off the settee. It's the only time you know what I mean? And that is a big thing to a lot of people, especially to the disability section. They look forward to it so much.
Yeah.
Because it's the highlight of the week. About some training or games, it doesn't matter. I think it's a chance to get together. It's to be with like-minded people, to enjoy the camaraderie and the friendship, and play a bit of football as well.
Yeah. It's that sense of community, isn't it?
Yeah.
So in terms of your role as a club secretary, for those who maybe don't know, because it's very much a role that sort of happens behind the scenes, goes on in the background, but is an everyday, incredibly important part of a club that is always, 9 times out of 10 done by volunteers, certainly at this level of the game. So what does that involve on a day-to-day basis? How do you sort of balance that with all your other commitments?
Usually my first thing in the morning is checking my emails and checking the whole game system, making sure what's come through. It's quite a sad life, really, when you think about it. The first thing you do in the morning is check the whole game system. But with a club the size of ours and the amount of things that crop up, you're effectively a mailbox. You're the mailbox for the whole of the organisation.
Yeah.
So if you don't respond or look into those emails and all the communications that you send from Links FA or from the FA as a general, from all the individual leagues, if you don't respond to them, they're not going to know. So you're the person that has to share that. I mean, sometimes it's just forwarding things on to the relevant people, which is the easy part of it. It's when you've got responses and you've got to form, come back to people. That's when it involves the work, when you've got to start writing reports and emails and responding to this and paying fines and doing all this sort of stuff. That's when the labour comes in. But effectively, like I say, you're just a mailbox and a point of contact for the whole of the organisation, really, from seniors right the way down to the 6-year-olds. Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that the club secretary is almost the linchpin that keeps the club together in that aspect? Because it can vary from registering players to paying fines to.
I'm not blowing my own trumpet at all, but I do know. I think when our secretary resigned and I took it over, there was a bit of a panic situation on. Who's going to deal with all this? Who's going to? And a lot of people, I don't think they realise, how important it is. And I think, like I say, the secretary, without blowing my own trumpet, I think without all that communication and all that, the dealing with all the fines a lot now and things like that, and the disciplinary things and the legislation that comes, and if you don't deal with it, you're going to be in trouble very quickly. Yeah. So it is an important role, which I think every club, and I tap my hat off to anybody else that's doing it, because I realise, I know through experience, and the worst part about it is nobody sees what you're doing, and you're like peddling away, and you don't actually always get the appreciation of what's done, because people have no idea the amount of work that goes on in the background just to enable them to play football on a weekend.
Yeah.
And it's a massive amount of work. And I say it's probably gone unnoticed majority of the time, but
And how do you think, whether that be from, I guess internally at the club or maybe even externally in terms of, county FAs, the FA, other organisations, how do you think volunteers in those roles can be recognised better? Or do you think there is a way that they can be recognised better? Do you think there's maybe enough? Does more need to be done in that aspect?
Probably creating the awareness from the likes of Links FA and that. I mean, it's always nice to get a pat on the back. Everybody likes a pat on the back and a well done and that sort of thing. You know, like we had the rewards at the ceremony this year. Things like that, where you get the little appreciation things. They're always nice, but it'd be nice if your own club could understand a little bit more. It's not just the major organisations. We all know, what goes on involved with it, and everybody at Links FA should know what a club secretary, and they know the work that goes in. But I think sometimes the clubs should maybe be a little bit more appreciative of the work that, like I say, it's all done at home in the background. Nobody really, you're not evident that you're doing anything. And I think until somebody actually did the job, they maybe ought to walk in the shoes for a few weeks and see what it would be like. Yeah. And there'd maybe be a bit more appreciation. But I'm not moaning. It's not a moan.
No, absolutely.
I'm not a moan, but I don't do it for appreciation. But
sometimes it's nice.
It's nice to for people when they're complaining and that to realise.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that has to then come? That has to come internally before then. Because obviously we've got things like this podcast that we're on. Obviously we've got the awards from a Links FA perspective. But do you think that almost has to come from within the clubs in terms of that recognition?
I think so. Yeah. If you've got good people in your organisation, which I always say, you're only as good as the people that are involved with you. And if they're that sort of person that would actually appreciate you, look at what you're doing, and recognise what work, and be a bit thankful at times that so they ain't got to bother with it, because nobody wants to bother. Nobody wants the stuff in the background. Nobody really is interested. They just want to play football, and that is, But
without those volunteers putting in the work, they can't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and I think we my colleague Jake, obviously Jake, said when we were filming for Mick, actually, won obviously Disability Pathway Coach of the Year, who's at Bottesford, said if volunteers were paid for their time, Lincolnshire would have a lot of millionaires.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, great comment. Yeah,
but it's true, isn't it? I mean, the hours that you must put into this role, must be ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I mean, and at times you put. My wife would probably agree with this, that you put your family a little bit in the background sometimes. I mean, obviously, family always comes first. Your job comes first. Your income, that sort of thing. But at times you do compromise it. And the amount of times I've not attended family events because I'm dealing with something, or I'm late to events because I'm dealing with something, or related to football, and that shouldn't really happen, but it does. It does. You can't help it. But,
and do you think that's part of the having that passion for the game as well, though? Obviously there's a certain amount of responsibility that you've got. If something needs attending, then obviously you have to put your attention to that. But do you think that's almost a little bit easier to do that by that? You sort of said before, like that bug that infected you of what football brings.
Because you don't want, you set yourself standards, and that just doesn't mean for football. It means everything in life. You've got a standard that you want to, you keep to. And when things come through and they're on my mind and I have to be dealt with, you're almost tunnel visioned that you've got to deal with it. And until you've offloaded it or took it off your mind, you can't relax. So sometimes things have to be dealt with straight away.
There and then.
And at times you tend to, you need to have a reality check that it's not that important. Yeah. But in your mind, it at the time it does, and it stresses you out. You do get stressed. I'm not saying at times I'm tearing my hair out with things. I want things to happen, and I want things. I mean, I'm quite impatient that I want things to happen quicker than they do sometimes. Yeah. But you deal with them best you can. I always say to the kids, even when they're playing football, just do your best. That's all you can ever do. If you've done your best, then you can't do any more, can you?
No, absolutely. Obviously, you've mentioned that you've been involved with the club for 30 years, and last year you was recognised with a service recognition award as well for the amount of time that you've been doing it.
Made me feel old.
But let's go back to the beginning in the sense of what inspired you to to get involved with grassroots football and take on the role that you have?
Well, obviously, like most people, I think you join a club for your kids. When they're young, 5 and 6 year old, you think, well, what are they going to get into? Take them swimming, take them gymnastics, you take them dancing, you do all the things, and I think it's a duty as a parent to show the kids when you're bringing them up. It's just my theory. As many different things as possible, and one of them they'll pick up on and say, I like that, I'm going to do it on a regular basis. And football was the one that, obviously, my son, amongst other sports, he did play other sports. I started with Tom, my lad, when he was like 4 and 5 years old, getting him involved. You want him to be healthy. You want them to have a good social life, which it creates. You want them to be involved with activity and sport and be part of a team, all this sort of stuff. It ticks all the boxes, really, when you look at it. And I mean, it's a win-win. Even if you don't become Wayne Rooney or David Beckham or whatever, it's 10 years of your life. I look at it because effectively football is like a 10-year span. If you're going to play it in junior football, where you can be involved, keep fit, you look after yourself, you develop good routines, you meet a lot of amount of friends you've got. Even when you stop playing football, my son's in his 20s now, he still meets socially people, and my daughters who played as well. They still meet people when they're out and about in town, and I remember them when we used to play footy and stuff like that. And it's that, to me, is more rewarding than winning cups and leagues. And I mean, it's nice to do all that on the way. Don't get me wrong, I had my fair share of that, but it's there's other things as well as that, and I think that's just as main part of it as it is developing your footballing skills. Yeah,
absolutely, and I guess that then sort of quite nicely sort of summarises why you then got involved in the roles that you have, is to effectively be the conduit and make all that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I was involved coaching at the start. It's hard to believe now, but I did 10 years I've done all my coaching courses and my safeguarding courses and all the first aids, and at one point I dabbled with going into my level 2 and all this sort of stuff, and I've done psychology courses, all these sort of things. We're all related to football, and I run a junior football team for 10 years, which we was very successful at junior level, and some of them have gone on to play high standard of football, which is quite rewarding. But you sort of priorities change in life, and you feel like you've done your part, you've done your little bit as regards the football development side of it, and you can use your skills and your experience to then sort of take on a different role, which was what, like the welfare issue, the role I've got for that, and the secretarial work. You've got an understanding. When people come to you with issues and problems, and you've probably seen them all and done them all yourself, experienced them. So you've got a good understanding of saying, oh, you wouldn't believe this. I says, I would, because I remember having it when I was running the team. And you can use that experience and how you dealt with it and how you resolved it to help them resolve their issues and problems which do arise. And I think it's a bit like a footballer when they retire, they go on to do coaching, or referees are usually ex-players that sometimes go on to referee matches and things. I always find that they're the best types of referees and players, the ones that have actually played the game and understand the game. They've took on all the scenarios that crop up, so you've got a better understanding of how to deal with them. So that's basically what I think. He's just carrying on, passing the baton on, and just doing a bit more in a different way. That's all. Yeah.
And in terms of the obviously there are multiple challenges that sort of crop up within your roles, but what would you say is the biggest challenge that you face?
Well, there are a lot. There's still a lot. There's still a lot of issues in football which I find disgusting at times. He's trying to iron those out. I'll not be specific, but there's certain things that, like a lot of people are addressing them at the moment. There's issues within, around referees and all this sort of stuff. He's trying to recognise that, the human beings, people, and you're dealing with human beings. They're not just because they're on the pitch in a black suit and that. They're not not an animal or treated, and shouldn't be treated like that way. So that's one issue. The other thing is within my own club is to try and get people to understand the big picture, not just their little team. A lot of people, I got told about a word, silo mentality, not so long ago. It's where you just look after your own little organisation and don't care really about what else is going on. I'm not saying that is the case, but a lot of teams tend to dip into that sometimes. You've got to always look at the big, when you're involved with a community club with 31 teams, all different aspects of people. I constantly know what the bigger picture is. I can see it all the time and the implications that certain things have. But sometimes the teams get wrapped up in their own little under 10s or under 9s or under 16s or whatever. They think they're the only ones that exist, and they don't. No. They're just basically a place for them to do what they're doing. But you've still always got to recognise that we're a massive club, massive undertakings going on there, and you've got to start thinking about the club as much as you do about your team and your players.
Yeah.
So and I try to get that across to people so much, and it is a big task to get them to start being a little bit less selfish. Yeah. And thinking about the bigger picture all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could have put that actually much better, to be fair, Steve. And you mentioned the fact that Bottesford is a community club. How important is that relationship between the club and the local community? And does the club do anything, obviously outside the obvious, to sort of try and connect and have a bit of an influence on that community and the problems that maybe lie there?
Like most sort of areas, you always have that antisocial behaviour. You've got issues with the police, you've got issues with the schools and things like that. And we work closely with the schools all the time because they're where all our so-called customers, football customers, come from. It's through the local schools, and so we try to link in with the council, the police, all this sort of stuff. So I think they recognise what a massive job we're doing for them, because we're probably 10 hours a week. We have got them off the streets. They're controlled in a controlled environment. We're keeping them safe. We're keeping them in a good sport that they're keeping fit. They're not smashing windows and breaking up swings in the park and all that stuff. They're with us, and we don't just try to instill good values in them for the football. It's about being a nice person, a decent person as well. And I do think, because I've spoken to quite a lot of the leaders both in the council or police, I think they recognise what a good job we're doing, because it's helping them, keep the crime rate down, keep the streets, less antisocial behaviour, all this sort of stuff, and I think there is a recognition there that we do it.
Giving these kids skills that go beyond football, life skills as well.
Yeah, it's about discipline as well, isn't it? I mean, I tell kids about picking litter up and things like that, and I pull them back and I say, and I try and get the managers to have the same. Not just me, because I'm not there. I'm only there a minute amount of time at our club. Yeah. But it's about those beliefs and those they basically have set good standards for themselves.
Have a positive culture.
Yeah.
And how important do you think that, setting that positive culture from the start? Because ultimately that has to come from the top down, doesn't it? And obviously, like I say, you sort of touched on there that you're trying to encourage the managers, like, things like picking up litter and being respectful and
the way you talk to people as well. You know what I mean? Decent manners, good manners. Yes, please, thank you. The basic things. You would, when you're bringing your child up, you would expect to teach them that as well. So effectively, we are parents for that hour to all the kids, and I think we should work more on that, more on respect, and then it comes from there. If you're respectful there at training and in your general life, when you start playing football and you start having referee issues and things like that, you might start then to think, well, no, don't talk like that. I'll not talk to her. And those beliefs are built in, aren't they, from an early age.
And do you think setting that positive culture, I mean, obviously Bottesford is A club that has won, for example, in the last 2 seasons, won a few county cups now.
Yeah.
Obviously, won the 18 boys last
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
I think the
yeah.
year before was it the 14s? Did you win
Yeah,
another one? The year
yeah.
before
I
as well?
think we won one at 16s as
Yeah.
well. I've been in various finals, and
Do you think that positive culture has an influence on performance as well? Do you think that sort of being a good person then helps them sort of develop as a player?
Well, I think so. I mean, you look around. If you've got a child that's quite talented at football, you think, where do I want the best place for him to play? Usually it's academies. That's where they start, and then they get released from academies. Then the next best thing is like, where do I want to go? I would think, who's got a good setup, who's got a good beliefs, a good ethos, and well disciplined, and that's where I want my child to play. And to my mind, I look at us as being. I'd like to think we tick all those boxes. And so if you've got a player that's talented and you're looking for a good place for him to play football, I don't think you could find anywhere in Lincolnshire. That's my personal belief. Yeah. Where you want your son to play football and know you've got all those beliefs. And I mean, we've had kids that have really been in trouble off the rails at times, and we've steadied them, and they've said since they've been at Bottesford how their character's changed and they've actually turned it around a bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's quite rewarding, isn't it? You know what I mean? When they've had trouble at school and things like that, and they've come in, they've joined one of our teams, and they've actually settled down.
Yeah, it's massive.
I mean, I'm thinking of somebody now who's really having a lot of trouble and his mum says the only time he's decent and nice and well-mannered and cultured is when he's at football. And he's having a lot of other issues in other parts of his life.
Yeah.
Now, that's a big compliment to us that he comes in here and he's a model kid. You know what I mean? It goes away and he's a nightmare, but he's when he's at footy, he's got his respect and his beliefs are right. And
is that seen across the club as well? Because obviously, is that seen in sort of like the female section, disability section as well? That sort of that behavioural impact, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah, I mean, I can't be everywhere and see everything. And don't get me wrong, we're not perfect by any means. We've got our share of problems that arise due to disciplinary things, and we've got swearing issues and all this sort of stuff. But you've got to keep chipping away at it, haven't you? Because you're never going to get it 100%. You're never going to get everything perfect. But if you've got that belief and that understanding that that's what we're about, eventually, 99% of them hopefully will adhere to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've obviously spoken about the important with the relationship between the club and the community as well. And obviously, a big part of that was the development of the site at Bottesford as well, with the new 3G sort of facility, because that now obviously opens up a lot of opportunities for other activities other than football that obviously external organisations can come into Bottesford and use your facility. How much of an impact have you found that's made?
It's been it's absolutely unbelievable that site. Now, I don't. You've obviously seen it. The investment that's been put in it through the grant funding. People say we're lucky because we're Bottesford. Oh, you're lucky you've got all this. I don't think we're lucky at all. It's took us 7 years since we first thought of that idea of changing it into a 3G, and the work that's gone into it behind the scenes, nobody sees it, but the things and the hoops we've had to jump through to get that funding, and then they slapped a pandemic in the middle of it all, which didn't
help anything.
Put us back 2 years just as we got it all ready to start, and then it all got stopped, and we thought we was going to lose it all, and then they sort of did the pricing, all had to change because after the pandemic everything was more expensive, and it's changed the face of the club really, from top to bottom really. I mean, we've got sponsorship now coming in, and we used to fight for sponsorship as all junior football clubs rely on donations and companies helping you out and this and that. We've got people now that are queued up, ringing us. Can I put a sponsor board up? Can I get involved with the program? Can I do this? We've never had that before, and because when you walk into our arena or the Bottesford site now, it's it's a jaw dropper, really. You walk in and you go, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
And we've got the snack shack there. We've got the seating arrangements there, and we've got the social club close by. We've got the sports hall in the car park for indoor facilities.
Yeah.
The surface is like a bowling green. Everything. The lights are good. The toilet facilities are second to none. Changing facilities. It's almost, it's like if Heineken did football or whatever, innit? This is how it would be like, or whatever. It's people are like, I was speaking to somebody the other day, he says, oh, when you come there, it's like playing at Man United or whatever. And that's how a lot of them feel. And it's great to see, the reward. I mean, I never had it when I was running my team for 10 years. We were stood in a muddy field, covered in it, getting in and out the car with it all on. But it's not like that now. And it has changed the face of the club. People are appreciative as well. I think they realise what great facilities now, and no disrespect to anybody else, but when they go away and play games, they realise what they've got, and how lucky they are to have had, have this facility while they're playing football, because they should always remember that. There's a lot of teams still out there with basic pitches, basic facilities, and struggling, but doing a great job. And I'm not knocking them, but we've just worked hard to get what we've got, and the kids will reap the benefit. Yeah.
And you say that, obviously, you remember your time being, stood in a muddy field, being up to your neck in it, but how's the game as a whole, I guess, sort of evolved in your time?
Well, the training's got more organised. They've actually, the development within the coaches, I think they're more ambitious. They feel like they've got something to live up to now. We've got this lovely facility. We've got all these things now, and we've got to match it with the performances, and we've got to match it with the coaching skills. So I think it raises the bar a little bit for everything, because you feel like you want to be successful, you want to be good at what you do to match all the facilities and everything we've done. So hopefully, in the minds of the players and the actual coaching, it should want them to raise their levels. Yeah,
super. To finish up on Steve, because time is absolutely flying by. We could be sat here all day really talking about football, couldn't we? But is there any sort of standout memories or achievements at Bottesford Town, during your time, in your role as secretary, or maybe even obviously as a coach, that you're particularly proud of, that really stands out to you as wow, we've done,
For a start, Stuart Pearce coming to open it up for us, and that when we raised 350,000 in grant funding, and we got the changing facility done. Getting the promotion when I was involved with the first team. I've had a couple of promotions I've been involved with, and that's absolutely euphoric when you get that sort of success on the pitch. Becoming Charter Standard, when the Charter Standard first started, and we got our accreditation there, a hell of an achievement. Put loads of work into that, and then finally we're getting the funding for the facility changes for the 3G now we've got. I mean, that was a dream come true. It was something I've always wanted and had passion about, tried to drive it on. And then to see it in my lifetime, and I know others, it's unbelievable, and it's just a massive achievement. And the journey itself, like you say, if you could do a timeline from 20 years ago to where we are now, I'd just love to see it, because it's been a success story really all round.
Fantastic. What advice, finally, Steve, would you give to someone who is maybe considering taking on a volunteer role in grassroots, whether that be a club secretary or sort of any other capacity? What would your advice be?
Probably don't get involved.
It's not really the answer you're looking for there, Steve.
No, joking. Joking apart. Be patient with people. Don't expect too much, because you'll not be disappointed. Don't expect rewards, and do it for the love of the game and for the love of your organisation. And if you got that, you'll bend over backwards to keep doing it. It's not about personal gain. It's just that feeling that you're giving something back. And I'm seeing kids enjoy football and being part of a great facility and part of a great organisation.
Fantastic. Well, Steve, it has been an absolute pleasure to sit down and talk with you for the last half an hour. Like I say, we could be sat chatting here all day about Bottesford and about all the amazing things that you've achieved, the club's achieved. And especially where things could even still go. So we're not finished yet. We've got more plans. Absolutely fantastic. Well, Steve, keep doing what you're doing, because you are making a massive difference to the club, to the community, and I think actually you're a massive inspiration for a lot of volunteers across the county, and they can all look up to you and what you're achieving and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So thank you ever so much for coming in and speaking to us.